Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I am bringing you my June reading wrap up. So yeah, for the first time since I started Booktube, I did not finish one of my books on my TBR, but I have a good reason, I promise. Okay, so maybe I'll just start with that one. So in my June TBR video, which I'll link above and below, I pulled a book I've been avoiding, and that was A Little Life. And I wanted to read it. I bought it. It was on and off my TBR for years. So I said, okay, this is definitely the one I've been avoiding. So I am about halfway through, and yeah, it's 800 something page book. So it's really, I've read half of it. So that's a whole book in itself. And yeah, so hopefully in my July wrap up, I'll be finished with it, but I'm, just reading, I'm enjoying the audiobook as well as I'm doing things. And yeah, so it's going to be a little bit of a project, taking a little bit of time, but yeah, I am still reading that halfway through A Little Life. And a little update on it, I guess, so far. It is sad. Especially in the middle, things start getting like very serious in their present time, kind of. In the first half of the book, it's mostly like there's a lot of past trauma and a lot of past sadness that you kind of get filled in on. So it's very kind of like there's been a lot of years in between. People have dealt with things. And then by the middle of the book, there's some actual things happening like in the current timeline. So it is very sad. It hasn't made me cry yet, even though it is very sad. So I don't know what the second half of the book is going to bring, but I am enjoying reading it. It's a beautiful book. Yeah, so TBD on that. Stay tuned for my hopefully completed update on A Little Life. So the first book I completed in June was Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, and this was the pull from my prompt jar that was set in space. So yeah, this is, like I said, Cold Eternity. It's about a girl who is being looked for by the government for reasons. So she takes this she's on the run, she's like trying to like stay undercover and like stay off the grid. And she takes this kind of sketchy job on a ship that used to be, it's derelict now. Like it's kind of just like, it's not empty, but it's like abandoned kind of like the security guard. And what it used to be was when like cryogenics, people that raised money maybe for their sick kid, or like movie stars, singers, they would have themselves frozen, and thinking that when they were melted or woke up or whatever, or people that were dying, that there would be, more options for them, that they would be able to be cured. So this spaceship that's where all these people were housed and everything, and they each kind of had like a room with like all their stuff. It was and then once that was proven that wasn't viable, it wasn't like a real science, they closed it down to like accepting new people and made it into a museum. So our main character actually was there as like a field trip when she was a kid, and was like had an interesting experience there. I'll say that, kind of a freaky experience. But she's very desperate, so she's come back. And there is someone there, I think his name's Carl. He's kind of like the mechanic, keeping this very old ship afloat. And yeah, her job is to do her rounds only on certain floors, and she has to press a button every 2 hours. So that means she can never like sleep longer than 2 hours, because every 2 hours she has to hit the button and do her rounds. So this starts like messing with her. Obviously, she's got like sleep deprivation. Yes. So, and she kind of gets, she's doing her rounds. She's kind of getting to know and like recognizing and getting familiar with all the people that are there, frozen. And then some like weird things start happening. And yeah, she thinks she starts seeing things. There's like an AI component that kind of is wonky. Yeah. So some crazy things start happening, and she has to decide whether to like stand up and try to solve this or flee. All right, so I'll leave it there. So I think a personal problem with me with horror, I love reading horror, but it rarely scares me. And this is one that didn't scare me, even though I did enjoy reading it. But if it's horror, like, it's supposed to be scary. So I think that's more of a me problem than a problem with the book, which happens a lot with me with horror. But basically, the setting was very unique, very cool. Like that. It not only did that concept of a place exists, but it was on a spaceship in space. So that was cool. I didn't love the twist. I wasn't crazy about the twist, but there is like the AI storyline that I was really intrigued by, and I wish that would have gotten explored even more and been more part of the main plot. I think that would have been kind of where I would have wanted the story to go. So that part was really interesting and I liked it. It didn't really creep me out, but it was enjoyable. It was a pretty short read. So yeah, if you're even a little bit of a scaredy cat, it might be scary to you, but if you're like not scared of much, it probably won't scare you. But it's still a very interesting like sci-fi horror read. And so I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Was so excited for this. This is my most anticipated release for the first half of 2025. And yeah, it's Taylor Jenkins Reid's newest release. So I got it on release day, read it in like 2 days. I did a vlog on that, which I can link above and below, unboxing it and my first read through and what I thought. So you can get way more thoughts as I'm reading it in that video. So it's a historical fiction romance, and basically it's set in the 80s, which a lot of three probably. Yeah, I think 3 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's like books are set in the 80s. And it's about Joan Goodwin, who is a scientist, and she is recruited as one of the first groups of astronauts, like to be trained, that females in them. So they're dealing. There's three other women that are also in this group with like a lot of men. Like so, and there's also like a divide not only in gender but in like discipline, like military and like academic. So there's like a divide there too. So yeah, the women deal with a lot of like misogyny. So if there's a lot of misogyny in this book and a lot of like sexism. So, and a lot of like homophobia, like there's a lot of that. It's a very male, straight, white dominated field. And yeah, so these women are trying to break through that. The story is told in two timelines. One is the current timeline where there is a mission out in space and something happens. So it's a very high risk, a very dangerous, I will say, like situation going. And we come back to that throughout the book. And on the other side of that, we have just I think it's like 7 years before we kind of come all the way up to the future. So, or to the present. So we are going through their training, their friendships, their rivalries, the romances, all that happens in this group of people that are trained to be astronauts. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics in there. Like I said, rivals, friendships, people that like each other. So there's a lot going on there. So yeah, there was a lot of dynamics in this book that I liked. But I think my favorite is the aunt representation. So Joan is a very devoted aunt to her niece Frances. And that's something that I was like, wow, we need more good aunt representation, because I'm an aunt and that's a role that's extremely important to me. So yeah, I was like, wow, I didn't know I was missing the reputation of like good, strong aunt figures, or like aunts in like kids' lives. So that was a great. I really enjoyed that part of the book. The space program is an interest of mine, so like pairing that with Taylor Jenkins Reid writing a love story like enveloped in the space program was like chef's kiss for me. So she did amazing. This was like still very much Taylor Jenkins Reid, but a whole new twist and a whole new perspective on where she could set a book. So I thought it was like perfect. The love story was so like heartbreaking and heartwarming. I won't give anything away, but yeah, I really liked it. I would say that it probably comes in third. I still like Malibu Rising and Evelyn Hugo more, but Atmosphere is up there in like my top probably 3 of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I also did a 101, like Taylor Jenkins Reid 101 beginner's guide based on vibes video. So if you're interested in kind of getting into her books, I'll link that above and below. And yeah, so I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I'm just gonna have to read the next title because it is very long. But it was my pull for recommended by a friend, and my friend Kimmy recommended this, and it is The Woman Who Fooled the World: The True Story of Fake Wellness Guru Belle Gibson. This is a nonfiction. She said it was the best book she had read this year. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's about, I had never heard of this person, but Belle Gibson was like a Australian wellness influencer. And her whole thing was that she had, or was attempting to heal herself of first brain cancer and then other, like bone, and it like spread all these places. But through like healthy eating, she had stopped chemo and everything, and she was like living like past all of these expected milestones for someone that was diagnosed with her conditions. She had an app, she had a cookbook, and come to find out, she didn't have cancer at all, and never had cancer, and never had any proof that she was diagnosed with cancer or had cancer or was misdiagnosed with cancer. She had nothing. Her friends started to become suspicious when like the lies start getting tangled. And yeah, eventually one of them went to like a newspaper, and yeah, she was exposed. I lost my dad from brain cancer. So the idea of somebody taking advantage of people suffering and like family members suffering, like for the effects of specifically brain cancer, and telling them if they just, eat flax or something and stop chemo, that's gonna, or like do these my recipes and that's gonna help you like live longer or cure your cancer. It was just like horrible. That's really where like they make it clear in the book, like, yeah, she stole money from people, she lied to make money and everything, but like she said, all the money that she was raising was going to like organizations they had never heard of her, like charities. But the real damage was that people believed what she was saying, and people stopped going to chemo and tried to just eat, get rid of conventional medicine and do all these alternative medicines. Eating well and doing all that thing when you're going through chemo or you're trying to take care of yourself is important. But when she's saying like, I quit chemo and then I did this and it's cured me. So very dangerous, like pseudoscience and claims that she actually had no proof of. And it just is horrible that they don't really know, but people I'm sure died from following her advice that was completely unfounded. So this was a whole expose on that whole situation. They also go into like the whole wellness culture, especially like wellness influencers and stuff. So that was a kind of interesting expansion on the story. As I said before, I never heard of Belle Gibson, but she was, in my opinion, like obviously severely mentally ill. And this is how she got what she needed from people, like internally. So in my opinion, it just was like a study of what the length someone will go to that does not have the help that they need and is dealing with some kind of trauma, and in the end ends up hurting other people. So actually, I think the bulk of this book was about the wellness culture, which was interesting, but I was actually more interested in like the specifics of Belle's story and what she was trying to like, the wool she was trying to pull over people's eyes and charities and all kinds of things. So I wish it would have been even more centered on her specific story. It was a very interesting book, but I wasn't like riveted by it. So it's an important read. I think it's worth reading. But I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. Because I did take some useful things from it for sure. But, and I was not exposed to this story at all before, so that's important. But I wasn't totally riveted by it. The next book I read was The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. Now, I bought this book in one of my hauls. I think my first book outlet haul. I don't think I can fit any more cards up here, but they'll be below. I think you're only allowed to have 3 cards per video, and I think I probably already talked about 3, so I will put that video below if you're interested. And I bought it outright before reading it because I had read the second book in the series, which it can be read as a standalone, and it was a 5-star. The True Love Experiment, 5 stars, loved it. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was a first book. I love like almost everything Christina Lauren writes. It's like 5 stars for me. So just buy it. So I read it. So basically it's about Jess and River. River is the like scientist of this new matchmaking science where you are matched like by DNA on like different levels. Like, so there's like a soulmate level, there's like base matches, like your compatibility is like on a spectrum. So obviously the higher your number, the more likely you are to be happy together and have like biologically more in common. So this is like happening. It's about to go like public. And Jess and her friend Fizzy meet River. They like see him in a coffee shop and they're like, he's really cute. And they end up like talking. They come in and do a sample to be part of this like launch. And it turns out that River, who is like one of the founders, and Jess are like a 98% match. Never has happened before in like their buildup of this company. So the company really wants to take advantage of this for like marketing purposes because they're about to go public. This is a big deal for their app or their website or whatever it is. And though they pay her to like spend time with him, it's a little bit of a fake date, but I don't even think that's an accurate description of this book. They just both agree to be open-minded about it. And they do, they like are kind of touted as like this like shining example of how this science can work. And of course, they start having feelings for each other. And Jess is a single mom. She does have a daughter, and they live like in the same complex as her grandparents who raised her. She has a mother who is very problematic and an issue. River is a bit like very standoffish emotionally and kind of like very focused on his work. He like really he's shut out a lot other than that. So they come into like a lot of problems, dealing with those things. Since this was an anticipated 5-star read, I had like obviously like high expectations and I was disappointed. So I was very disappointed at this book. The back of the book, like the blurb, I think like the bones of this book have a lot of potential, but I just didn't really get like invested. I liked River, but I just didn't get invested in their story. The third act conflict was like cleared up like that. It was like pretty quick. One tough conversation kind of, and like everything's fine again. So I like a little bit more drama, as you guys probably know right now if you watched 2 videos of mine on my channel. I like the drama. So I think it was fairly uneventful with the drama. And the drama it was like cleared up really quickly. I did like seeing Fizzy in this book, who is the main character of The True Love Experiment, which I gave 5 stars to. So that was great to see her kind of before the events of that book. I just felt like the stakes weren't very high. I feel like they were supposed to be high, but I didn't feel like they were high. And yeah, it just didn't do it for me. I was really disappointed because I love everything they write, and this was kind of a dud. And the epilogue was so long. Like, I found myself like, just like, okay, like kind of almost skimming the last like pages because the epilogue was so long. So I gave the Soulmate Equation 3.5 out of 5 stars. A lot of 3.5 stars this month. Ooh, okay. So the next book that I read was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the second book in the Boys of Tommen series. And I did a vlog of reading Binding 13, which you can find below. And yeah, it's a very buzzy book, so I read it. Binding 13, I liked it. It didn't live up to the hype quite. I was a little bit disappointed, but I definitely liked it enough to keep reading. And people had told me, or that I had read too, that they loved Keeping 13 even better. So I was like, okay, I read Keeping 13. So it picks up with Shannon and Johnny. Shannon comes from a very troubled home, and Johnny is a like rising rugby player. And so we pick up right where the first book left off, and the kind of the fallout from the events of the first book and kind of going forward from there. So I can't really give more of a spoiler than that if you haven't read the first book. But I really liked this book. I really, really liked it. I think that there was much more interaction between Shannon and Johnny, which is why I think I liked it more, because they were not together that much in the first book. They were like kind of like, just gazing at each other across the room and like having feelings, but they didn't really engage that much in the first book. The second one, there's a lot more, so I enjoyed that. This is kind of what I thought the first book would be. So this one was paying off on the hype for sure. Laughed, like cackling through this book, like Gibbsy and Johnny and his parents, like so funny. Like Shannon's younger brothers, so funny. Love the relationship with her younger brothers and Johnny, and her little brothers and Joey, their older brother. I just like loved all the dynamics, all the friend dynamics in this book. And then I also liked what was going on with Shannon and Johnny. So all around, loving this book. 5-star read through the whole thing until I got to the end. So I would say so in the third act, the big drama happens, which is, oh my gosh, like well done. But then it like, book keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And even though everything that was addressed was important, I think it needed to be truncated much more. These books are about like 100 pages, I think, too long. So that like started to lose steam for me towards the end. And yeah, it just kept going on and on. So I also really appreciated how Chloe Walsh like really started to like put in like more deep roots for the other characters for their other books. So that really does like whet my appetite to read the other books. I'd like to like skip Joey's. I know I'm not going to, and I shouldn't, but I would like to skip Joey's and go to Gibbs's. But I am going to read them in order. But I am more excited for Gibbs's story rather than Joey's. But I'm sure I'll enjoy those too. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was almost a 5-star, but like that last 15% really like, it lost steam at the end. And like I said, even though I thought there was a lot of important things addressed in the last 15%, it didn't need to be so drawn out. So the last book I read in June was From Below by Darcy Coates. This is like an underwater shipwreck horror book. And basically there was this ship called the Arcadia that disappeared. And there were some like distress signals and some confusing, it was like in the 1914 or 15 or 16, something like that. Confusing like radio communications. And then that was it. An oar washed up somewhere. And yeah, no one ever found it. So they think they've found it. So this woman who does a adventure kind of show, like documentaries, like adventure shows, she thinks that they found it. They're going to take some ROV vehicles down there and get footage, and they're going to make a documentary and all this. And they have a team. They have like a camera guy, like a ROV guy, the captain, obviously, / historian. She's the host. There's like their like assistant who also has dive experience. The like safety diver, like so like the real person that has a lot of like dive experience. I believe that's everyone. I believe that's everybody. So that's the team, and they're gonna go and explore this. Now, in the last day, they're gonna go down like actually in their suits and like kind of like check it out themselves and get footage. But other than that, it's gonna be all like remote vehicles. But those are all, they get out there and they're all stopped working. So now they have to go down the whole time, like actually like in their like suits and everything and get all the footage. So they go down, they start exploring the ship, they go into the ship. And something that the marine biologist kind of talks about is that because of like where the boat sank and the depth and all that, there's like no sea life. There's really no oxygen down there. So sea life can't really eat up and bacteria can't really eat up the ship. So it's like very good condition. And yeah, so they start exploring it and they go on a couple dives and things start being weird, right? Things start moving in the corner of their eye. You know, there's strange writing, like warnings written on the walls of like some of the hallways in the ship. So yeah, some weird stuff starts to happen. So again, with this one, like for me, I enjoy reading horror, but they don't scare me. So that's a me problem. That's not a horror book problem. I will say that the setting, again, like this, Like It Cold Eternity, was very unique and cool. I don't know how unique it is. There's probably a lot of like haunted ship, or not haunted, but like shipwreck horror books. But I think this might be the first one I've read. But anyway, the setting was really cool. And it was described very well. Like Darcy Coates did a very good job of describing it. I could like see it. I could like see, like I was down there with them in my like scuba gear, like checking everything out. But it didn't scare me. I loved that the kind of like loose ends or like the storylines and the plots that were kind of like put out there and like tethers. And you kind of think that maybe Darcy Coates like forgets to like bring them back together. No, she doesn't. Like, trust her. She knows what she's doing. She brings them all back together in like really good ways. And that was very satisfying. And also the ending. The kind of like big ending I thought was great. I thought it was perfect. I liked how they wrapped everything up. So sometimes horror endings or like the twist or whatever isn't great. But I thought this one really did well with all that. Again, wanted to be creeped out, but wasn't, but still enjoyed it. So I gave From Below 3.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't realize how many 3.5s there was. That seems like a bad reading month, but there really wasn't a book that I didn't like enjoy. I guess there just wasn't a lot of bangers this month. But we did have 2 4.5 ratings, so, you know, it kind of evened out. So that's all I read in June. If you made it to the end of this video, drop some nautical emojis below. I've never done this before. Let's see if people like to do it, like to leave some little emojis below. Since the last book was kind of like a shipwreck, like boat, water theme. Yeah, drop some emojis below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please drop into some of our reading and productivity sprints, which we have about twice a week. It's really fun, and we would love to have you in there. That's all for me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.